Assalamu alaikum dear viewers. I am Tayyab Ali. Welcome to my channel Chess Essentials. Today we will discuss the battle between the bishops and knights, and this is the most important and interesting section which you guys should study carefully if you want to obtain the mastery of a chess game. In this video we will also see some diagrams, and in these diagrams you will see that games are won by the superiority of a bishop or a knight. So let's move to our first diagram. In this diagram, you can see that both sides have two bishops and a knight. It is white to play, and white's plan is to place his knight on the d5 square. But right now, white can't play the move knight to d5 because knight will be traded by the black bishop or black knight. So first, white decide to remove the defenders of the d5 square. So white play the move f5. And black, instead of playing the move bishop to the d7, black play the move bishop to the c4. Seemingly this move is very active by the black, but unfortunately this was an inaccuracy. Here white happily captured the bishop, and black queen captured the c4 bishop, and white play the move bishop to the g5. Here white's plan is to take the knight, and after bishop capture bishop, then white will happily move his knight to the d5 square. So here black play the move rook f to the e8, and white capture the knight on f6, and black capture the bishop on f6, and white play the move knight to the d5. And now white's plan is succeeded. His knight goes to the d5 square. Here you guys can see that black queen can't capture the pawn on the c2. If black queen capture the pawn on the c2, then rook move to the f2, and after queen to the c6, rook to the c1, and then black has to give up the exchange. So as black queen can't capture the pawn on the c2, black play the move bishop to the d8, and white play c3, black play b5, and white play b3. Black queen gives check on the c5, and king moves to h1, and then black play the move rook to the c8, and white play rook to the f3. Now white wants to start the attack on the king side, and black play king to the h8, and white play f6, g captures f6, and white play queen to the h4, and black play rook to the g8. White play knight capture f6, and black play rook to the g7, stopping the mate on the h7, and white play rook to the g3, and black capture the knight on the f6, and white capture with the queen, and black play the move rook c to the g8, and white play rook to the d1, and here black play d5 and resign, because after rook capture g7 and rook capture g7, white will capture the pawn on the d5, and now the threat is rook to the d8, which will be deadly. So black resign and white win this game. As you can see that in this diagram, white's knight play an important role because he has an outstanding outpost on the d5 square, and the knight can't remove easily from this square, so this gives white a winning advantage. Now let's move to our next diagram. In this diagram you guys can see that white has two knights while black has a bishop and a knight, and if black bishop goes to the b7, then it will control the whole diagonal from the a8 to the h1. So here black is in advantage. It is white to play, and white play the move d5, solving his all the problems, because after knight capture d5 and knight capture d5 and pawn capture d5, white play the move knight to the d4. White is a pawn down, but his problems are solved, and now black bishop can't go to the b7 because its diagonal is blocked by his pawn. So black play the move queen to the f6, and white capture the pawn on the d5. White gain his pawn back, but this is not a good move because now the black bishop becomes very active, and black play the move bishop to the a6, taking a tempo on the white rook on e2, and white play the move rook to the e5, and black play bishop to the b7, because if queen capture the bishop, then white rook will fall. So white queen can't capture the bishop, and here white play the move queen to the b5, and black play rook a to the d8. Play the move knight to the f3. Bishop captures the knight on f3, g captures f3, and queen captures f3. And white play rook to the e1, and black play rook to the d2. Here white play rook to the f5, and black play captures b2. Here queen goes to the d7 square, and black queen gives check to white king on g4. White king moves to h1, and black rook moves to e2. White rook goes to d1. Black queen gives check on the e4 square. White king moves to g1, and black rook goes to e1 check. And soon after this trade, black win this game because of his material advantage. So as you can see that in this game, black bishop becomes very superior due to the open diagonal from the a8 to the h1, and this superiority of a minor piece leads to the victory of black. Now let's move to our next diagram. Let's see this diagram. In this diagram you guys can see that the position is somewhat close, and white has a knight and black has a bishop. And as you guys know that in close positions knight work very well. So in this case, if white move his knight to the d6 square, then the knight becomes very superior. And white's plan is to play knight to the b1, and then knight to the a3, and then knight to the c4, and then knight to the d6. This is the fastest route from which white knight can go to the d6 square. So let's start the knight journey. Here white knight moves to the b1, black queen goes to f8, and white knight moves to a3. Black bishop goes to d8, and white knight moves to the c4. Black bishop comes to c7, and white knight moves to the d6 square. As you guys know that when knight reaches to the higher ranks on a chessboard, then its power increases, and when the knight comes to the 6th rank, then it is very powerful. It is not a 3-point piece, it becomes 5-point piece. Here black play rook to the b8, and white play rook to the b1. Black play queen to the d8, and white play b4. A captures b4, and rook captures b4. Bishop captures knight, e captures bishop, and black queen goes to a5, and white rook moves to the b3, and black rook moves to the e8, and white queen goes to e2, and black queen moves to a8. White rook moves to e3, and black king goes to f7. Here white makes an inaccuracy and play the move queen to the c4, and black play b5. Here white can't capture the pawn on the b5, because if you capture the pawn on the b5, then c captures b5, and white queen is lost due to discover check. So white play the move queen to c2. Black capture the pawn on d6. C capture d6, and now c5. Discover check on the king. King moves to the h3, h3, and cx b4. Now queen c7 check. King to the g8 and d7. Rook to the f8, and queen to the d6. Here black play h6, and queen capture the pawn on the e6 with the check. King moves to h7, and queen e8, and black play b3. Here queen capture a8, and rook capture a8, and pawn capture b5. Rook to the d8, and rook capture b3. Rook capture d7, and b6. Here black resign because he can't stop the white's pawn from promoting. So in this diagram you guys have seen that in close position how much important role a knight can play. Now let's move to our next diagram. In this diagram you guys can see that white has a bishop and a knight, and black has two knights. White bishop on b3 looks very powerful, because it control an important diagonal from the a2 to the g8. But if black succeeded in pushing the bishop from the b3 to the c2, then this bishop becomes very poor because its path becomes blocked by his pawn. Because black want to make this bishop inactive, so black's plan is to play knight to the b6 and then knight to the c4, so that white bishop's diagonal become blocked by the black knight, and white will have to remove this knight at some point. So this was black plan. Now let's make a plan for the white. White's plan is to attack on the king side because white's bishop is attacking directly on the king, and white queen and white knight are also on the king side, while black has no pieces on the king side to defend the king. So white's plan is to attack on the king. So here white can play knight to the f5, so that after knight capture the knight, white will recapture with the e pawn. And after recapturing with the e pawn will advance to the f6. So white play the move knight to the f5, and black play knight to the b6, and white play queen to the e3. It is a very good move by the white because white here threaten a piece. Here white plan is to capture on the d6, and after rook capture d6, white will recapture with the rook, and after queen capture d6, white will pick up the b6 knight. So this was the white plan. Here black panics and play the move knight captures f5, and white recapture with the e pawn, and here white plan is to play f6 to create weaknesses on the black position, and black can't stop this threat. If black stops with the queen, then knight on b6 will hang. Also black can't play the move f6 because f7 pawn is pinned by the bishop. So black play the move c5 and white play f6. G captures f6 and queen moves to the s6. Here black play f5, and now you guys can see that all three rules of combination are present on the board. And what are the three rules of combination? Number first rule is that opponent king should be weak, and now you can see that opponent king is weak here, and also the queen on the c7 is undefended, which was the second rule. Second rule say that opponent pieces should be undefended, and third rule was that opponent pieces are insufficiently defended. Here you can see that opponent pieces are not sufficiently defended because all the three rules of combination are present here. White capture the pawn on the f7 with the check, and black can't capture the pawn with the queen because knight will hang, and also black can't capture with the rook because after queen to the g5 check, the d8 rook will fall, and also black king can't capture the bishop on f7 because after queen captures h7 check, the black queen will lost, and if the king moves to the h8, then the king is stalemated, and if we give a check, then it will be a checkmate. So on f6 it will be checkmate. In this position black resigned. So let's move to our next diagram. Let's see this diagram. In this diagram you guys can see that white has a bishop, and this bishop is very powerful because there are no pawns on its way, and also white can kick out the black knight by playing c4. It is white to play, and white play c4, and black knight moves to the e7, and white queen goes to f3, setting up a checkmate attack on the black king. Checkmate is threatened on the a8, and black queen gives check on c5. White king moves to h2, and black rook goes to the d1, and here also black threaten the checkmate on this square, on the g1 square. Move rook to the e3, and here black queen can't capture the rook because if black queen capture on the e3, white will capture on the e7, and after black king goes to the b8, white queen will give checkmate on the b7, and here black play b5, and white queen capture the pawn on the e6, and black play knight to the c8. White here play the move a5, setting up a mating net for the black king. Here black play queen to the c7, and white play queen to the e4. Here black play queen to the b8, and white play queen to the g4. Here black resigned because he can't protect both his rook or the g7 pawn. If black save the rook, then the g7 pawn will be captured by the white queen, and this will be dead lost for the black here. So here black resigned. So in this diagram you guys can also see that The superiority of a white bishop leads to the winning advantage for the white. So in these diagrams you guys have seen that knights work very well in the close positions and in the positions when they find an outstanding outpost on the 5th or 6th rank. While when the position is open, then this position favors the bishop and makes a bishop superior than the knight. So the superiority of a minor piece depends upon the pawn structure and also on your thoughts that how you play a given position. If you have proper knowledge of knight and bishop, you can use them effectively in your games and win the games because the games are often won and lost by the imbalance of knight and bishop. So this is all about today's video. Hopefully you have understand the concepts regarding the knights and bishops. Inshallah we will meet again in our next video. Thank you.